Hello, this is Ed in San Diego, and today is September 2, and it's almost 7:30 a.m. here in California, almost 4:30 p.m. or 16:30 in Central Europe. Welcome, everybody. Today will be an international broadcast recording session, and it's about the changing industry called global mobility. I believe it's talent development globally because people can work remotely. For instance, I'm here in San Diego, Southern California, on the Mexican border. And today we're going to have participation from Germany, from Sweden, from Brazil, and of course, places around the US. We could be joined by a few others, such as Switzerland and, perhaps London, Dublin. So it's an international cast. We're going to be discussing the role of global talent development in this new economy. Hopefully it'll continue and be strong. The role of talent development, global talent development, has to do with the internal workings of each individual company, of course. How it is viewed by the C-suite, and is it diversified in decision making, or is it centralized? How people adapt to a talent mobility assignment, let's just say in person, and let's say an American going to England, is full of challenges. You think the same language, but the culture is different. I should say cultures are different because parts of England are very different from each other. If we just think about metropolitan London, you get a potpourri, a huge mix of talent coming from around the world to work in one of the world's stellar places to live and work and be educated. Same in most parts of the US, and of course Paris, of course Rome, Milan, Geneva and Zurich, throughout Germany, and of course Asia Pacific and Latin America. It's a huge world out there. And the global mobility industry, the services, the consultancies, the practices are quite diverse. Everybody who will be on this program already knows that. But what about the implementation of AI? What about the implementation of cost controls, top-down cost controls? And what does that mean for funding, creating talent mobility? We're going to have a great conversation today, and thank you for tuning in. I'm going to admit Angie Weinberger, who's based in Zurich, Switzerland. It's a wonderful person and a great client. Stand by. We'll say hello together.
Hi there. Hello.
Hello, Angie. Welcome. We are recording live right now. And I was just announcing your entry into the green room, the studio. And here you are in the global meeting room. Again, thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Now, this map behind me is the US, and it's all about where the tech talent is, about a year ago, that is. Can you see it clearly? Yeah, okay. So this is all about international talent. So we don't have a map yet of where tech talent is in Europe, but you know where they are. A lot of them are right where you live in Zurich. So
We have the best here.
the best, of course, and the most disciplined and trained for sure.
Mm. And we have the best city too.
I can't wait to come back, I'll tell you that. And I'll have more information about that hopefully soon. Uh, so the concept for the Zurich luncheon meeting uh, uh, is to have host sponsors, not just yourself, but others who are willing
Mhm.
to help fund this and get up and speak, of course, and be prominent. Portions of that event will be Zoom broadcast and recorded, not all of it, but portions. And we do that specifically to get as much positive PR for the speakers and of course the co-sponsors and of course for me and the show. And that way it makes sense economically to justify the expense of travel and production risk. And, you know, production risk means are people prepared? Are they media prepped? So I offer free media prep to everybody uh, prior to their acceptance of the assignment to participate or the
Mhm.
willingness to invest in the program. Because being camera ready is absolutely critical. And let's welcome Dr. Ken Lloyd
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you, Ed.
Hello.
and
Angie,
Angie.
how are you?
I am good, thank you. Hello,
Good.
Ken. Nice to see you
Nice to
again.
hear. Good.
Yep,
Thank you for keeping me on your mailing list. I like reading the materials that you send, so thank you.
she's a rock star.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Working on it.
Yeah. Okay. So we are recording right from the get-go here because the whole world knows me and they want to get to know you and about who you are and how you are as a person. And that's why this is relatively informal in this structure. The topic today is the role of global talent development, and it's different in each country. Angie, would you agree that it's different in Switzerland and Zurich as opposed to Italy?
Um, I'm not so
Global
sure
talent
about,
development.
I'm not
Yeah.
so sure about that. I
Okay.
think it depends largely though on the kind of company we're talking about.
Hmm.
So, like also on their level of internationalization, globalization. And, I mean, if, we were just talking about the tech talent in Zurich, and then, obviously I think about the big companies like Google, Microsoft, and I would, or, like our large banks. And these usually, they have global processes for talent management. Whereas, when you think about the different countries and different approaches, that is probably more true for more disintegrated firms, fragmented companies, or, like network companies, like consulting companies or law firms. Very often they have a local structure, not so much of a globally integrated structure. So for them, I would suggest there is probably more of a local approach to talent management. But I think we're seeing both. I think we're seeing it's not so much dependent on location, but I think it's more depending on the stage of internationalization of the company.
Angie Weinberger, meet Carolina Gomez Pereira in northern Brazil. Angie is in Zurich, Switzerland, and you've met Dr. Ken Lloyd before. Carolina, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And actually, I will be talking to Angie in a few days, right? She invited me to be on her couch. I'm so excited about this.
Yes, yes, we met already, Ed, through your calls. So, like many of, the people that we're encountering here, they will all become Red Couch talk stars after the TV talk shows.
This
Get
is
ready.
amazing.
Yeah. So we're going to have a few others join us throughout the program. Some people cannot stay the full time, but I will be broadcasting as much as 90 minutes, and it may be shortened, but it won't be any longer. I know everybody's got other things to do today. Ken, what are you working on today besides sitting here on TV?
That's a great question. I got a couple of, if you will, coaching type calls with a couple of people who have some career related questions, and then continuing to do some writing type work, and that's about it. But not a super busy day following the long weekend, and there you go.
Carolina, what are you doing after this show?
Well, I'm working with one of my mentees on her CV and, job interview. So that's what I will be doing.
Okay, Angie?
Nothing.
Nothing yet, right? Well, it's already what,
No,
4:30 where
just,
you are,
I'm
right?
just kidding. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I cannot do nothing. I was just thinking like what of the tasks that I should do will I do, and what of the tasks that I want to do will I do. I'm in the middle of preparing for the whole weekend. We're going to have a series of events because it's our 15-year anniversary. So we will celebrate that in style, and I'm still like doing a bit of event management in the background, organizing goodie bags, trying to understand who's actually joining which of these two events, and making sure that my mom knows where she should come to.
Isn't that interesting? Carolina, would you tell the audience out there in the world who will be watching this thing in the streaming version subsequent to today's live broadcast recording, tell the audience about your your background briefly, how it relates to your work today as a consultant teaching people business English, if I understand that correctly.
Thanks, Ed. So I've been once someone that moved to a English speaker country and I couldn't speak a word of English. So I myself went through this experience of being in a restaurant and not able to understand the menu, ordering food I didn't like because I didn't know how to order my food, or being terrified of picking a phone call because I knew I wasn't able to understand or to answer the conversation, right? So that lead me to learn English. Also, I speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish. Nowadays, I teach these languages too. I've been in the corporate world for many years, working for an American company where I had the opportunity to visit many countries and work with amazing people all over the world. So nowadays, my mission, what I enjoy very much to do nowadays, is to help other professionals that, like myself, feel like they have a big barrier with the language. They are not able to perform in the way they wish, and they are amazing professionals. But we work with them the way to get through this and to really understand that it's more about connection than having the perfect language or the perfect grammar. So this is what I do nowadays.
Okay. So behind me, just to make sure the audience out there understands what they're looking at, this is a playful but informative map of the U.S., and particularly focusing on where the author of this data says tech talent lives right now. In other words, in person. So you can see the whole bunch there in the West Coast, California, Seattle, Portland, Phoenix, uh, Microsoft, Silicon Valley, of course, Silicon Beach in LA, and tech down here in San Diego, megatech, particularly bio, life sciences. And over here in the Northeast, part of this map there is New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Washington, huge concentrations. And in Texas, Dallas, Houston, Austin, of course. And the upper Midwest, as you can see, according to this map, is a little sparse. But what's been happening is that companies based in, for instance, California, are investing in the Midwest, U.S. Midwest, Tennessee, and Northwest Arkansas, which happens to be the home of Walmart, and they're very much funding economic development in that formerly rural area, not rural much anymore. It's developing into a giant suburb. And Nashville area is becoming a major league city, already is in many respects. But for instance, In-N-Out Burger, which is LA based, they're opening up a second headquarters in, guess where? Nashville. And they'll be relocating bunches of people from high cost LA into much lower cost, for the time being anyway, Tennessee, Nashville area. Also a little bit further north, but not as much action, towards Minneapolis, St. Paul. There's tech expansion, particularly as part of the U.S., the Congress passed the U.S. CHIPS Act, semiconductors, manufacturing investment. And parts of Ohio and parts of the upper Midwest are benefiting from that direct foreign direct investment right now, and will be. So we don't have a map yet about where the tech talent resides in Europe or in Brazil or Argentina or Mexico or Costa Rica or Toronto, but we know that there's bunches of high-performing talent in these places. So the theme today is global talent development. And the idea, or the question is, do we have to relocate people in order to develop global talent? Carolina, this is exactly part of your background, isn't it?
Yes, and it's a very interesting question because with the advance of technology, I think what we are doing right now, being able to be in the same room, even though we're kilometers away, is now changing the world as we know. We're able to really contribute from different places, being remotely, connected. Of course, some jobs, some work still require the presence, people to be, in the same room. But I think it's really offering lots of opportunities, lots of business that can be created, a lot of things we can do remotely.
Ken?
Oh, absolutely. I just, for an example, look at the podcast that you lead and the people that we've met. Here, I've never met Angie in person, but walk down the street. Oh, Angie, how you doing? What are you doing? But their friendships and bonds that develop where people can communicate and we get to understand each other. Granted, it's not as perfect as in person in terms of understanding other people, but it is pretty powerful. You can certainly read other people, how they're feeling, what they're sensing, if they want to say something, if they're agreeing, if they're disagreeing, if they want to contribute. I'm just saying there's so much to be gained now globally by having this amazing technology where we can communicate and do more than just give each other words. There are relationships that are developing this way. So I absolutely agree with what Carol was saying.
Angie?
Would now be a good time to show a slide?
Absolutely. My screen share is open and available.
Let me try that. So I have not put together a whole slide deck, but just one slide that I would
Good.
like to share with you.
Yeah, and make it a little larger if you
Yeah,
can.
I'm trying.
Okay.
I don't think I ever shared this with you. This is from one of my lectures in Holland. And you've probably all heard me say that I'm on a mission to bring the human touch back into global mobility. And this has been, this has been my mission for the last 15 years probably, almost as long as my business, when I started my business. And I think one of the things, that we have not really solved in global mobility in general is how we link talent and global mobility together strategically. And I think that's why I'm a big fan of talking about global mobility coaching as a way to enhance the expat experience. And I just wanted to show that model to you because this is the basis of actually what we do at my company, Global People Transitions. We are trying to help people improve their career and the expat experience that they have through different elements. So first of all, we think ongoing global mobility coaching is helpful for them to be better at what they do, to be higher performing, faster, build inclusive leadership, build teams that are inclusive. It will help them with their cultural adjustment. It will accelerate their cultural adjustment. And also they have then more of a reflected learning journey when moving from one culture to another. And I think with coaching, they have a deeper insight into the experience and their personal growth. So basically what the expat experience is doing with them. Probably 20 years ago, a researcher called Aichan, Zainab Aichan, she discovered that mobility is essentially a leadership development experience. And I know I'm saying a lot of things to answer your question, but for me, you cannot develop international, intercultural competence, global competency, as I sometimes call it, in your local setting. I think you need to have the international experience, at least work in international projects, but even better if you work in international projects and have moved countries and cultures. And in addition to that, I also want to ensure that our industry is becoming more sustainable in how they provide services. So that is another element of this model. And then you probably see this trophy here. That's just a symbol for the digital technology ecosystem that I usually call it the Holy Grail that we have not invented yet. I think somebody shows me the Holy Grail, I will stand corrected. But that's basically an ecosystem of technologies that work together to deliver the sustainable services. So that would be all the vendors that are involved, like Carolina for language support, me for the coaching, somebody who's delivering immigration support, moving, the person inside the company, the global mobility manager inside the company, who will deliver the package to the assignee and their partner. So all of these people united in one technology ecosystem rather than this very broken system that we used to have in the last 20 years.
So the problem is that the C-suite often doesn't understand what's going on, and they don't see the value of bringing the experienced people who's on the show right here into the conversations of talent acquisition outside of, well, just international.
Yeah, in some instances, yes, which is also, an important discussion we need to have. Like, where does this function actually sit? Because that's another issue. You probably all heard about the existential crisis human resources is going through at the moment. And the question is the function well positioned under human resources? Or should it maybe sit with business development or be closer to the CEO of a company so that it gets the necessary attention and C-suite attention it deserves?
So the mobility function is
Or
expensive.
global talent, whatever you want to call it, because I think what you're talking about is a bit more integrated, has more to do with talent than with pure old-fashioned international assignment management.
Yeah. Um, we discussed that a little bit, Ken and I, with Jack Champel the other day, and he says that a lot of that doesn't belong in the mobility department. It is somewhere
I,
else
I
because
agree.
of the expenditure. It's a big expenditure. And because it costs a lot of money to fund talent in another country on a visitation or an assignment project basis, uh, it's like uh, a, a bad spot that needs to be erased quickly.
Although I have to say, you know, first of all, for the last 20 years, there's always been a cost approval process, and usually at least someone on the level of the CFO has to approve the cost of an international assignment. So maybe, I don't know if, you know, that was taken into consideration, but from a strategic perspective, I've always said, I'm not sure if global mobility is best positioned under HR. And I think, and I've always said that in lectures, strategically, the function should be closer to the business. It should be either belong to the business development area or you know, directly report into the COO or the CEO rather than the head of HR.
Philip
My
Berry calls it business development, making sure that the company is well represented by a bench of people who, if they're, for instance, of Polish background, his research at Colgate-Palmolive for many years at the global level showed that a person with those kinds of backgrounds, that kind of cultural experience, uh, family oriented, and the way the products are used, in that case, Colgate-Palmolive, Colgate toothpaste, for instance, in Eastern Europe, that relates to Southeastern Europe, that also relates to parts of Central America, about the family nature of life and the way those kinds of products were looked at by the families and how the company adjusted the marketing to fit those cross-cultural realities. And the talent development came exactly with that because the company benefits in the end from more of a global product development basis because the product may be a little different in Latin America from Northern Europe.
Yeah, this is called international marketing. And I think also this has been around for 25 years. My other topic that I would like to also hear you, Carolina and Ken, on that I think, you know, when we talk about this competence development or global competency development in leaders, which, you know, if we think of it, is the basic purpose of global talent development. I think we also need to consider how AI is changing the landscape. And with, you know, the advent of AI, I think people will need more coaching because skill development is even more important, but also a lot faster, accelerated than maybe 5 to 10 years ago. I mean, if you think about language, for example, you know, like I recently had to do an immigration letter. I just wrote it in English and asked ChatGPT to translate into French, and it was actually it was excellent French. So, you know, there's so many things that, you know, I learned so much French for nothing. Yeah, so what do we do about that? How do we bring that into the picture? And I think we need to have like good models in place. Most companies don't have that. They don't have these good competency models in place, in my opinion. Everybody talks about like the skill-based organization now. But who decides which skills we need in 5 or 10 years? Which skills should people develop? We don't know what kind of skills we will need in 5 or 10 years. It's tricky. What do you think, Ken and Carol?
Well, I agree that it's certainly tricky. Uh, but when I listen to what you just said, notice that you did not have AI write that letter for you. You wrote it. It was you, your thinking, your individuality, your experience. You put it in there, then had it translated. Very different from how other people are approaching AI. Just write the letter for me, write it in French, and do this and that. That to me is, at this stage of the game, very questionable. Down the road, who knows? But at this point, to use it as a tool, as a support, as a help, and maybe even as a coach, can be very important and very useful. But the fact is that it still came from you. And we see and need this in so many areas. You can't simply, I'm just going to relegate this to AI. AI is still not perfect. You've read about AI hallucinations. You know, Chat GTP come up with stuff. Certainly in the legal profession, there have been cases and situations in which briefs have been prepared with cases that never existed, judges that never existed. So all that, we are still, as in quotes, leaders, managers, responsible. We can get help, we can get support and guidance, but right now, AI is just an extra additional tool that is, look how much time it just saved you by translating that. Très bien. But at the same time, you didn't turn it over and have it write it. And I really like in your slides, the words that you're using so often deal with development, growth, learning, coaching, such an important key aspect of this whole process when we're talking about relocation. It's that holistic approach, I think, is just so remarkable and really helps to make it work.
Angie, let me ask you, I see that you've gotten involved with Stefan Remhoff. By the way, he's supposed to be on the show today, but he's got a last minute assignment and he's not sure what time he'll join us today. But I was on his LinkedIn earlier today reading about the Mobility Alliance that I see that you're an active member of. And I copied from his site the German language explanation of what that is, what's going on. And I put it into Google Translate. And it came out perfect English. I was trusting it. What else am I going to do? So I took that and built a website very quickly, which I'm not going to show here right now. And I put all that in there because of the topic that he generated a month or so ago. And that's the topic that I promoted this TV show about. So I hope he does come. But Angie, because you're newly involved in that and energetically, I must add, why don't you take this couple of minutes here and talk about that organization?
I can't talk about People Mobility Alliance because, we're basically partnering. They're advertising my program. We're partnering on that. We've been working together for a long time. I'm going to attend their conference in Leipzig, and I'm going to talk at the conference on an online forum, but I'm not a part of the People Mobility Alliance team. So it's better to let Stefan and Daniel do the talking about that. But I think,
Got it.
I think their basic approach, like teaching more people about mobility, making sure that it's strategically aligned with the business and looking at mobility more from a strategic perspective, on that we very much agree. We have very much of the same values, and Daniel and I have known each other since 2007, so we've been talking about these topics a lot. And
So
what is important to
yes,
us
go ahead.
in global mobility education, because that's where we're coming from onto this angle. We're coming from the teaching global mobility managers inside the companies and HR in the future, probably.
How about the CEOs?
Well, I would love that.
That's where the money is.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's important to them, maybe they should learn a bit more about it. But on the other hand, they don't need to learn all the intricacies of tax law and immigration law and social security law,
Right.
psychological adjustment. It might be a little too operational for a CEO. Unless they're a startup CEO, then it might be interesting for them.
So here we are at a crossroads, and teaching people about how to practice mobility, I guess is the right language for me to use right now from my brain. But in Germany, there's a major political campaign in combination with business groups right now to attract global tech talent to relocate to Germany. And they've part of the legislature there, I forget what it's called, but they've enacted tax breaks, tax incentives, and benefits to get people to relocate from anywhere to live and work inside, in person, in Germany right now. And I asked Stefan yesterday in follow-up and prep for this thing, is he involved in that program? And the reason why I did that is to get him to talk about it on this program. And I'm not an expert at it, and I don't have the specific information at this moment. But there's a program that I'm developing, albeit slowly. I started to develop it in May and then got put off until after September 1 with a Berlin-based company that specializes in immigration to Germany. And the owner of that company has been on our program a few times as a guest. And he and I have discussed setting up a series of programs to further explain this Germany incentive package. So I was wondering whether Stefan was already plugged into that, he or his partner, Daniel, because it seems that these guys are really advanced in their thinking and they would be right on that cutting edge at the same level as my Berlin customer. So Angie, what do you know about that?
Sorry, I'm far removed from Germany now. I'm not up to speed on what's going on there.
So I'm practicing being
Been in
global.
Switzerland now for too long.
I'm sitting here on the Mexican border and I'm
can't really
practicing
tell.
being
I can't
global.
really tell what exactly the government has planned. I mean the immigration. There have been immigration efforts, the green card, the blue card, to bring in more talent qualified talent into Europe in general. I think also right now the reputation of Germany has probably suffered. So maybe not as many talents would like to move to Germany anymore as expected. But on the other hand, there's also a big influx and a big interest. And we see that from my company. I have a lot of people calling us because they want to move to Europe, for example, from Northern Africa, from Eastern Europe, even from the US. So we're like becoming more and more, and Switzerland has always been the same as well, immigration countries. And that was not the case, let's say 25 to 30 years ago. So there, Germany wasn't an immigration country, not like the US or Canada. But that's
So
definitely changed.
I think, and it's just me, and I'm in the public relations business primarily, but uh, there's a not anti-US as much as a wake-up call to others. And Germany is really, I think, brilliant at jumping out and aggressively offering incentives to compete with people who used to think, I have to go to the US. I have to be an immigrant to the US in order to grow my business. And now they're saying, no, you don't. You can stay in Europe or go to Germany. And there's all kinds of systems developing. Carolina, what do you have to say about all this? What's your take? And I know I'm just dropping this on you, like with no prep.
Well, I love to comment about the question that Angie did before also. With technology advancing, with so many changes happening, right? What skills should we develop or help our colleagues, our clients to develop? And I think all of us here somehow coaching people, right, in our different areas, we see this nowadays that more and more we need human skills. We need to really help ourselves and our clients to be able to reach their potentials. To with the more technology we have, the less communication we have, right? In companies, we have amazing talent, amazing people with skills, right, that could be contributing in different companies, and somehow they don't know how to connect, how to get there. And this is where the coaching is so important, and the professionals that are helping them to get to their ways is so important. So what Angie mentioned before, Dr. Ken, to having technologies working together for bring the best in humans and connect us so we can really contribute with one another, either if it is remotely or presentially. And another thing is that we can help people to develop, to grow, to learn what they don't know so far, like maybe our small details, a little change, and that only a human can transmit. I can be hours talking to chat GPT, but 1 or 3 minutes that I am listening to you, Ed, talking to me from your experience, from what you have lived, or Dr. Ken, from all the things that he had studied and he transmits, it changes the way I perceive this information. So that's why it's so important that we can have us helping each other to develop what we have the best as humans. I think it's going to be a big task, a big challenge. And another thing very important is the existential crisis that is going on. You mentioned, Angie, is a big call of attention for all of us. Like, why is this happening? Why? What can we do to help?
Angie?
I really try to limit the existential crisis to HR, but you're probably thinking bigger, Caroline. Yeah. No, but if we just talk about human resources as a function, and I've been there, worked there, teach there. My take is that the ideas that we had in the early 2000s about the role of HR, basically the Dave Ulrich model, they failed now. Even Dave Ulrich says that the ideas that initially were the basis of his model, that HR should be like eye to eye with the business, should be a relevant partner, have a seat at the table, in many ways did not deliver on the promises that this original idea had. It was a great idea, but for some reason, HR did not get the acceptance as the strategic business partner that it aimed for in many, many companies. I'm not saying there aren't any exceptions. There are probably exceptional HR professionals who have the seat at the board, at the table, and can talk eye to eye to the CEO. But I would say they're the exceptions, not the rule. And now HR needs to reinvent itself. But at the same time, at least the last 5 to 10 years, HR has given away a lot of responsibility back into the business, the line managers. Tools like Workday, for example, SuccessFactors, they helped with that. A lot of things HR professionals used to do are now done in the business. The line manager has to start a process themselves. So HR has sort of made themselves superfluous. They made themselves redundant for the transactional work that they used to do. I'm not talking about the very administrative things like payroll. Payroll is still needed. We're looking like in Switzerland, you know, if you're a payroller right now, I'm sure you could make 150,000 francs because they're rare. Payrollers are asked for everywhere. So things are switching, However, for all these HR business partner roles, those more general HR roles, they have to find sort of their reason for being nowadays. I think the people that are also really, they have the people that do really well right now in HR are the specialists. So global mobility managers are specialists, comp and ben specialists, recruiting specialists, because they're very focused on an area of expertise. But those general HR managers, they have a hard time. Hope that gives it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's a perfect pitch to Dr. Ken Lloyd.
Yeah, very interesting. And the document you recently sent to me about future steps within the HR field, you could see all that strategic planning and organization and development stretching beyond the kind of the basic administrative functions that HR handles very well. At this point, yeah, I agree. We're seeing a full continuum. In some organizations, you'll see people with that HR background with that seat at the table and engaging in the kinds of strategic planning that we're talking about now. And other organizations are very much relegated to traditional HR roles and functions. So it does vary by company, by size, by area. But the future for HR to continue to have that seat at the table is to stretch beyond the basics and get into the kinds of topics that we're talking about today and the kinds that you addressed in the document that you had sent to me earlier about a week or so ago.
Carolina, what's your background on this? What's your look ahead on this?
Well, I truly believe that we will need managers. We will need, even with the advance of technology and so many things that are being replaced of human work, let's say, that machines can do right now, we will need this glue between the talent and the company, the vision and the employees. And managers, supervisors are the ones that connect, you know, that really can listen to people, make them feel listened to, and transmit what is the company vision and really make the whole thing working in the same direction, right? Companies are divided in different sectors. Each of us, when we're working in a company, we're just looking our, single area and our goals, and we don't look at the whole thing as a whole. Or we don't have the vision if we're not like a manager or supervisor. That's why I think that we will need always talent, gluing, and helping each other.
So HR then is a coach to the line managers. Yeah.
I just wanted to say something along those lines, because that was another promise, at least when I was a junior HR professional. We were all so excited about becoming coaches and consultants. Way back in the day, I know. It's a while back. But now, what I see when I'm as an external global mobility coach working inside companies as a freelancer, for example, what I see, Carolina, is exactly that. The people tell me, the talents that I speak to, I finally have somebody to talk to. My manager doesn't have time for me anymore. So this function, this part that would maybe be exciting for HR to step into, that is taken by external coaches, and they come through large platforms. So again, another thing that doesn't work, or organizational development. This was an area a lot of HR professionals went into. They bring in, at least here in Switzerland, they would bring in external consultants. That would not be done in-house. So yeah, I just wanted to, make sure that we also look at this like systemic perspective of where does talent, mobility, and global talent belong? because I think that should be a function that sits with the CEO. It should be so strategic that the CEO says, this is under my wings. I'm not going to delegate talent to somebody else, because talent is going to be critical for our work, for our survival.
Ken, what about the role of the HRBP, HR business partner? That's kind of a unique aspect of HR, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a unique aspect. It's a growing area, but we really have to see how it evolves, because just as Angie is saying, the people in the organization are the most important element and component. And can it really simply be delegated? And if so, and it is possible, but it's to a person who clearly is at an extremely high level in the organization, close links, ties, communication to the CEO, ongoing working relationship, to be a partner with that CEO. And again, sometimes it's best handled by an external consultant who might not be bound up by all of the bureaucracy and paperwork and generic stuff that goes on in companies that can get in the way, the politics as well. So it's there, that role can be fulfilled by such an individual, but it's not an automatic, oh, just step in here and go ahead and do it. There are a lot of other variables that have to be nailed down first.
Well, an interesting discussion. I thank you very much for participating in this. Shall we go on, or shall we bring this to a close? I don't think
I would
Stefan
have
is.
another little nudge.
Yes, please. Yeah.
A little nugget, and it links with things all of you have said. And it boils down to the human skills again. One of the things I notice is that, and I think this has really a lot to do with the dawn of AI, the loneliness epidemic, people not feeling belonging anymore. Sometimes I feel like people do not know anymore how to build relationships inside their organizations. It would be so important and critical to just get to know more people in the organization, to get things done. And I'm sometimes surprised when this is a part of coaching and then people think that I've just told them about a miracle. So one person said on LinkedIn today that we need to rely a lot more on our networks. It's even more important now that we build relationships, maintain relationships, build trust with people, invest in psychological safety.
So the idea of the CEO maybe delegating it, or perhaps it's the CEO themselves, organizing a beer hall on campus once a week.
A beer hall?
A beer hall. Sorry, it's my Boston accent coming through, I think.
Oktoberfest? Ed, did you think Oktoberfest?
Yeah, right. But do it in the company and get people to meet and greet. And work will come up because that's the basis of the relationship, but people are going to be friendly. Forced. Of course, the introverts won't like that.
One of the things I tell my clients is you don't always have to bond over like extracurricular activities. It sometimes helps if a glass of wine is involved, but it's not always necessary to do it outside of your work hours, for example. You can also, build a relationship over a project or a common cause, an initiative, a peer network to, support each other on certain topics. You just have to do something actively most of the time, because nowadays people do not connect automatically anymore, like it used to be when we all sat in offices.
Sometimes a lot of people connect, but always thinking like, what can I get in return, right? Like lately that I have been participating in many groups, here in LinkedIn globally and also in Brazil. This is very clear how some groups are very, very focused on, connections for something on return, and some others not. And this is very interesting too, like being able to put our intention in these connections, I think also makes us connect with the right people that will eventually work things out in the way we feel better, right? I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Ken, in your years back when you were head of what talent for that big company, did you are you having flashbacks to that right now?
Flashbacks. Yeah, it was a unique company. I've been with them for a lot of years. I was a consultant to them originally and then joined. But as a consultant, I came in dealing with the CEO and the leadership of the company, certainly communication literally with everybody. But when I then joined the company, it was very much part of just the expectation that that role would continue. So I was able to engage in a lot of the kinds of actions and behaviors that Angie has mentioned, keeping HR at that level and not just as an HR supervisor somewhere, making sure that important as it is, payroll, benefits, and so forth, but much more than that. But the CEO and his team were very open and receptive to making sure that the whole human element, just using it in the broadest sense, has top level attention and focus and building from there. And it made a definite difference.
Wow, this is really interesting. So, Carolina, the picture you posted somewhere this past few days of walking your dog on the beach, that was really cute. That was a really that made me smile.
Oh, thanks. He is a big buddy companion here to me because I always say kids and dogs, they help us become or being present, right? Like be in the moment. And this is what I enjoy with him. When we go for walks every day, we go here nearby on the beach and talk to people, and there's always someone with another dog, and also it's really interesting how even in these moments we are connecting, like, and this is so nice.
Yeah, makes me happy. Thank you for being on Global TV Talk Show. I'll get this back to you sometime later in my day and come back again. Now, this is going to be an ongoing topic, so we'll just grow our participation. We don't want a big panel thing there. I like the smaller groups. Isn't it better for you, Ken?
Oh, it's very nice. You get to really interact with people. It's not just a bunch of statements, one person, another. You actually have, well, I know dialogue technically means too, but there's a dialogue shared among all of us, which makes it that much more interesting.
And Angie, thanks for that impromptu slide, because that was very, very timely.
Awesome. Thank
Right.
you. Thank
So
you.
our job then is to be a coach to any corporate leader, any corporate manager.
I
And
would say
we,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And I think what Stefan is doing and what others are doing in the mobility industry is having the guts to speak up and be public, because for years they didn't want to disrupt the gravy train, but now geopolitics is interrupting the gravy train and causing a mess, which is constantly going to be changing, I'm afraid, rather than stabilizing. So more about that on the next edition of Global TV Talk Show. Thank you.
Thanks, right back to you.
I
Take
Thank you.
care.
really
Thank you,
enjoyed
everyone.
really
Well,
enjoyed
thank
this.
you.
Thank you.